This is Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So what are we getting here? Honestly, it's a little bit harder to tell because this one has levels of FSR applied. So like, to me it looks like 1080p-ish, but it could be dynamic from like 1440p down to that. It's at trying to be 60 FPS. There's really bad screen tearing present. So for the graphics, you're actually able to turn on the FSR mode, and you get three different options: performance, balanced, and quality. And then you can change the FSR sort of sharpness. So let's kind of look for quality mode. So for me, when you turn on the FSR, it just seems to make the picture quality like murkier. Like, I don't think this is a very high FSR level being used, or it's not really, like, it just kind of looks really blurry and murky, which is kind of weird. So, and I don't think you're, like, it doesn't really feel like you're getting much gain for performance. Even if you go to, like, say, performance mode, I'm not, like, really noticing a lot of gain. It seems to help a little bit with, like, the screen tearing, but it still kind of doesn't feel like, I think if you're seeing the image, and I don't know how well this shows up on YouTube, it still kind of seems a little like wavy, if that makes sense. It still doesn't feel really smooth. Now if you have a VRR screen, I think that should help a little bit. It'll show off ultra quality, and then yeah, it's still, I don't know if it's like an effect type thing they're doing with like the blur, but characters look kind of like blurry, and it's really weird. Like, honestly, it's a weird application of it, and I don't really know the best suggestion for you. I would say maybe leave FSR off, and I think that's better for the experience, just because the characters have a bit more clarity level to them in this one. But it's still got that horrendous screen tearing. And then you do also have the options of like particle systems, casting of shadows. I don't know if it's quite worth the performance hits to kind of do that, because that makes it a little bit worse, but I like that this game gives you a little bit of options. This is kind of one of those ones where I'd like to revisit it on a future Xbox console, because it would be, I think, a lot better looking. So it's a CRPG. You kind of know where that is. So it's kind of along the lines of characters, role-playing, deeper strategy. You get to customize your character. I kind of did a quick one, and I just sort of looked through the steps. You get a few different hair options. Like, there's actually a good selection of hair options, but a few different hair colors, and it kind of matches the whole Warhammer universe pretty well in that regard. So explore the Koronus Expanse. Oh, and you get to pick your ship name, and kind of there's a couple ship options. So begin your adventure aboard your personal giant void ship, traveling between the multitudes of systems in the Koronus Expanse, a barely charted and very terrifying region of space. Oh no! On this celebratory occasion, how could this happen? So you're going to meet different characters, make choices, kind of a little bit of role-playing, and then you do your kind of like turn-based kind of combat and stuff. And yeah, it's one of those type titles. Now, the people that make this have like a pretty good history. Oh, that's nice and bloody. Yeah, they have like a pretty good history with this type of genre. You know, this is kind of a little bit of, I guess you would say to some degree, what they're sort of known for, some would note. But yeah, that's kind of their thing. And then yeah, you just get like a turn-based kind of control system kind of thing, and then you can inspect the details, and you see the character stats and their weapons, their conditions. So it's kind of like one of those experiences. I think this genre, we've seen kind of a few of them, and then you've got your abilities. So we'll do like shoot and, you know, take off half the health, and then I think we can kind of, well, we do have regimental tactics.
Rejoice in service.
And then you get the reload going, and then I think can I move more? I think I'm out of movement stuff. And then you can change like your weapons, so you could be like, oh, I want a gun, I don't want a gun. Like it's a pretty like layered sort of thing. Like you're seeing obviously there with the characters, the context menus, choosing your abilities, and then it's got on the left side this sort of rotating kind of option. So I end my turn and then someone else comes in and kind of battles. It's one of those kind of role-playing games. So you might be finding this kind of intriguing. I just wish the visual fidelity of this was like, ugh, I love that. Sharper and more, a little bit more detail. Like, I don't mean detailed as in like, I wish it like looked better. You know what I mean? I wish the fidelity was higher, because like it's a very intricately designed environment, and like the characters, they talk and they have like all dialogue stuff and discussions, and it's about time you troopers showed up in this place. Yeah, but you can see like the world. You know, you can see all these little like texturing things, and you can see all the detail in like the panels on the floor and the world. It's just, yeah, it's a fidelity thing where it's just kind of like, you know, on the Series X it's kind of a lower res, and then on top of that it's kind of like a little disappointing that it screen tears so badly. As I said, I think a VRR screen would, you know, that setting, that game mode setting might help clean it up a little bit better for you. Because it's like, yeah, there's FSR, but FSR is just... it's a nice resolution scaling thing that we have, but it's not a great resolution scaling thing. It's all we got on consoles, though, but... yeah, so you make your choices, there's lots of dialogue stuff, it impacts what's happening here, and you can see your success rate chances of doing stuff, and... it's one of those kind of role-playing games. And it is, of course, within the context of, you know, the Warhammer 40k universe, so if you're familiar with that, aggressively mature, dark, isometric turn-based combat is what they call it. I like isometric designs because they usually give you like an above-ground kind of thing, and there's lots of little details here. But I think if you've played their other titles, like the other Owlcat Games, I think you'll have kind of an idea of what this is. Okay. Take me on this sacred mission. I have no more questions. Send me out into battle! Uh-oh. That's a lot of those things. Anyways, this looks like it's a bit of a nightmare situation. But yeah, you make your strategy. So Pathfinder was the other title. And I think Pathfinder is usually pretty well regarded. Like, it's a pretty cool sort of thing. Like, if you're into the whole, I guess you would say, Baldur's Gate type stuff, especially since that's just kind of recent, I think this one fits in quite nicely there. Same with Pathfinder, honestly. If you liked Baldur's Gate or you like this type of gameplay, I would actually recommend taking a look at Pathfinder, because that one at least has one crazy opening sequence, that is for sure. But yeah, I like, you know, the style of game's kind of intriguing, because you do the cover stuff, you do the combat stuff, and you could really sort of scale this one too, if that makes sense. Like, you can really sort of choose your, the way you do difficulty and fine-tune. I like how brutal it all is, if that makes sense. Like, it actually has kind of a sense of brutality to it, which is nice. Like, it is quite graphic in that. Which is expected if you're in 40k, right? I mean, everything 40k is like the grim, dark future where everything sucks and darkness is everywhere. You know, we're just killing to do another day, and yeah, I mean, it's... I don't know, I just kind of assume most people know what 40k is. Like, I've seen so many Warhammer 40k, like, properties over the years that I'm just so overly familiar with what it is. And you do get more kind of characters. Like, this is obviously sort of an opening kind of tutorial type thing, right? Like, you'd probably spend more time fine-tuning your character than I have for this to show this off, and you'd probably, you know, be a little bit more in depth. But this is just showing off, like, hey, you know, here's how the game works, lets you get familiar with things, you know, lets you get introduced to the combat, and then later on you're going to be, like, controlling groups of, like, units and stuff, and you're going to be kind of managing your team, especially with your ship, too, and then there's the ship elements of it as well, where you're kind of, like, you know, exploring with the ship and taking in the world, and you know, your subjects, you kind of do like mercy or treat them with disdain, and you can stay faithful to the God Emperor, or you can, you know, join in with maybe some enemies and stuff. Like this one, it's neat because it's sort of this element of intrigue. Like you're not just, you know, doing a strict story. You are in a way, right? Like you're doing like a narrative, but it is. I don't think we can get close enough to actually shoot this thing this turn, actually. But you're crafting your own tale along the way. Your choices and decisions and how things go kind of will impact the overall story structuring of what happens and where do you end up. Like these games usually have just an incredible amount of like complexity to them from a story perspective. Wish they would have at least cleaned up the performance, because it's just kind of, it's funny, you know, you look at like Baldur's Gate, that's like pretty well like polished and stuff, and you kind of look at this and you're just like, oh, what is with the performance stuff, right? Like, so I'm hoping they do clean that up, and
Let the faith guide my path to glory.
you know, I think that would be kind of a nice thing, because I know not everyone still has the fancier kind of TV upgrade options and stuff. I get that for sure, but yeah, kind of a bit of a bummer in that regard, because it is like, it's a really, really detailed world. Like it looks intricate. It's just like the fidelity, even here without the FSR stuff going on, it's still a little bit yeah, it's a little bit rough. Because I don't know about you guys, but it's like, especially as I've gotten a bit older, I'm just kind of like a little less tolerant for like screen tearing and that. And I normally you'd probably sit here and listen to all the dialogue and stuff, or I would hope you would, because then you're actually getting, you know, the narrative and value. But I'm trying to show off a little bit more of the action, more of the gameplay and stuff like that. A mutiny? Discover the whereabouts of Edelthrod, the heir. They'll have your head if you fail. I will try everything for the Emperor and the servants below the Emperor. The captain made it clear that relying on you is fraught with risk. I just love the snappy dialogue choices you can make in role-playing games. Oh! I was betrayed! What? How could they do this to me? Man, it does load decently fast. People always underestimate the complexity of these experiences. I can't believe I was straight up betrayed by this person I just kind of met. They're kicking me when I'm down.
Careful, careful. Be gentle with our guest.
How perceptive.
I'll help you with the next. We are in the anteroom of the warring chamber. This voice
Is your blood too thin for the sentinel?
Beyond those gates lies the relic that gives Theodora all of her power. On the contrary, the war's blessing has raised me too much above your kind. Fond, wretched. What do you know about wretchedness? They once my work.
Oh no. I've been controlled. They will siphon thy blood. Tech use. Examine the device. Place my hand. Look for anything that could be used as a weapon. There's nothing.
Did you forget something? I suggest you hurt.
There's no way out of this. I'm screwed.
High levels of caustic humus. The subject is in a state of heightened stress. Do you require assistance? Request accepted.
Oh, defense protocol. That's convenient. Where were those before?
There is still another way.
So did I get shanked? And then I used the machine thing? This is such a cool experience. I just wish it ran better. Oh wow, look at that. The Warrant of Trade? The Paragon of Humanity? Hey look, it's one of those floating weird skull things.
The child of the house to safety. Distance from the current location to the nearest arsenal. Initiating situational Voxcast frequencies. Communicate. Temporary obnubilation following acute stress. Mobile unit of the Warren Center. Middle and upper decks.
No, I've got like a little floating servitude thing. Look at that. Ah, that's adorable. A weird floating skull.
Mistress? What? Saints blood.
Heretics. Heretics. I need a weapon. Ba 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 ba.
Path to the end.
Let's fight together. Do you like all these people I roasted? So where did he run off to? Because he went like this direction. I don't see any like... I don't see any like hallways or anything he went.
My path to glory.
Oh, do I need to patch myself up? Is there like a weapon somewhere around here?
The divine watches over us.
Switch camera mode, cursor, map, highlight objectives. Nice that you can actually pause the world around you. Dialogue finished. Yeah, they don't really give you context into stuff. Inventory. Okay. I had a gun this whole time. Well, at least we got a gun now.
With each step, I forge my destiny among the stars.
Oh, I gotta like use my use my health pack. There is so much depth here. Holy. It's actually kind of impressive. This is the right trigger, by the way, in case you're wondering. Huh.